$10 is not a lot of money. It might be enough for a meal, but nothing beyond that. However, if you have $10 in your pockets and no debt at all, you are literally wealthier than 15% of Americans. Just think for a moment that does that mean in the wealthiest country in the world, 14% of households have negative wealth and 1% with absolutely no wealth at all. Wealth inequality seems to keep growing, maybe because these greedy capitalists love the dollar, but you know who else love the dollar? The entire world. US dollars are so popular that they are used like the gold all around the world. But why? Why the dollar is the global currency of the world and not any other currency? In order to find that out, we have to take a look back at the history. You see, for much of history, we have used gold as the form of the money. Even when we moved to the paper money, they were still backed by gold, and that was known as the gold standard. In fact, the gold standard was existed as recent as 1971, which is last 50 years ago. You see, the problem with the paper money is that sometimes government get into trouble, so they start printing a lot of money, and that causes inflation, which means the money that you worked so hard to earn suddenly becomes less valuable, or sometimes absolutely worthless. Secondary, international trade was impossible with the paper money. What happens when you want to sell your goods for the neighborhood country that has its own currency? You will have a difficult time figuring out how much each of your papers worth. In the past, it was simple because everyone just traded with gold. However, if both of your paper money is backed by gold, it's easy to agree on exchange rate. And the government can simply print more money because inflation's based on the bill should be backed by gold. That's not the gold standard was born. However, in the 1914 World War One broke up, the Europe found itself in absolute chaos. Wars aren't cheap, especially when the entire world is involved. You need to pay the soldiers to stand by your side, buy them weapons to fight with, and food to feed them up. So everyone turned to the United States for help since it was directly involved in the world and had an economical power to do that. The war was long and expensive. Within the next few years, European countries has to abandon the gold standards one after another because they spent most of their gold reserves to finance the wars and went under huge debts. By 1920s, when the war ended, the US dollar was the only currency backed by gold, which made it one of the most powerful currencies in the world. The only competitor to the dollar was the British pound. However, even British had to get out of the gold standard due to extremely high war expenses, which only made the US dollar the only stable currencies in the world. Despite the Great Depressions, the United States didn't abandon the gold standards. The next steps that made the dollar truly the only international currency in the world was World War II. It was the war bigger and more destructive war. The Allies had spent every dime they had in order to lose the war. Meanwhile, the United States was enjoying the massive inflow of the gold from the rest of the world, and by the end of the world found itself in a very awkward situation when the United States had 70% of the global gold, while the rest of the world shared the other 30%. So, United States proposed to tie every currency to the dollar, while the dollar will be tied to gold, which came to be known as the Bretton Woods systems. If one currency was traded with another, they would only use dollars since it is the only currency that you could exchange for gold. And within the next couple of decades, countries all around the world collected tons of the dollars. And in the 1965, France decided to exchange their dollars to gold. They literally spent a shift full of dollars and got into return the giant ship loaded with gold. So other nations followed, but US realized that they have printed far more dollars than they should have. So instead of exchanging every dollars to gold, they simply took the dollar out of the gold standards in the 1971. But surprisingly, the world didn't stop using dollars since the United States was still the largest and the most stable economy in the world. And that's how we moved from the gold backed currency to fiat money with no in strict value at all. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit the sunrise button together with the bells besides. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.